I'm Martin White, founder of Ruffian Software, and this is the TechIDManager live demo for December 4th, 2025. This is targeted at anybody who is curious about what TechIDManager is, curious about how TechIDManager does privileged account management, or PAM, for MSPs, anybody who's curious about how TechIDManager gets implemented outside an MSP. If you already know what TechIDManager is, their monthly PAMcast, which happens on Tuesdays in 2 weeks, is a phenomenal thing to go view. In addition to this is more for people wondering what TechIDManager is, how it works. So we'll start with a real brief verbal me talking introduction to what TechIDManager is, how it does it, and then we will move in and bring the product up and actually show it doing what it does. So privileged account management, as an MSP, you might know, is when your technician accesses your client network, the account that they use. Traditionally, that has been one shared administrator account, shared between all technicians. Maybe it has a different password per client. Maybe it has the same password everywhere. Maybe the password is some derivation. It is, or using GDAP via Intra ID, but that has some pretty significant limitations. It also is really hard to set up and maintain. It also doesn't give you good access to local machines and on-prem infrastructure stuff. TechIDManager does Entra ID, Macs, Windows machines, domain controllers, domain access for MSP technicians in a variety of different ways that solve that privileged account management problem, so you are not using one shared administrator account unless you want to. And then we can also do password rotation on that shared account or on all the individual accounts. We can also do rights setting on all of those accounts. En masse, cross-tenant, cross-location, cross-machine, be it pods, tiers, whatever your organizational structure is, which you add as an MSP and you need technician access, we can do all of that. We also do this for a couple enterprises. We do this for a couple places that are enterprises that run like MSPs, where they bought a bunch of different companies and come together, a couple private equity companies, quite a few different partners that apply the privileged account management problem that MSPs face, where you have N technicians that need access to M places. What I like to call the N to M access problem. We solve that, targeted at MSPs. That's a lot of words, a lot of fancy talking. So without further me lecturing you, let's bring up the product and see how it works, what it does. So what's on the screen here is the TechID client. This is the piece of software used by MSP technicians to get access to their accounts when they need them to do whatever it is they need to do with it. What we have here is we have this Entra ID account at martintechidmanager.mail.onmicrosoft.com. When I brought it up, I clicked on it, I clicked enable. That account didn't exist, wasn't enabled, it didn't have any rights, had a password that nobody knew, was unloginable until I clicked that enable button. Then, as quickly as you saw there, that account got enabled, or created if it didn't exist, enabled in that Entra ID tenant directly. All the rights provisioned to that particular account so that I can use it to have whatever rights I'm supposed to have. If I'm supposed to be a GA on that tenant, I'm a GA. If I'm just a backup administrator, I'm backup administrator. If SharePoint administrator, that's what I am. I can be some combination of those, or I can be only one or some set of those. Any of the 200 plus rights and rules, any group membership in Entra ID, TechIDManager can be set up to maintain and install and control for technician accounts. To use this account, you go here, portal.onmicrosoft.com or portal.azure.com. You can simply copy the username, copy the password. Even the MFA that is for that account is stored inside TechIDManager. And then I'm logged in to that Azure portal, and I have, in this case, global admin access to do whatever it is that I need to do. Maintain resources, look at subscriptions, maintain users in Entra ID users. Whatever it is that I need to do, I can do for those accounts. As a technician, I went from that login screen with no access for me as an individual to logged in, to an account made, logged in, rights set, global admin access, MFA all set up in like 4 or 5 button clicks. all there between those two tools very quickly, very efficiently, and I can move on to do whatever it is that I need to do inside that 𝗕𝗏𝐼D tenant as an MSP technician. Super simple, super easy. That is, if you see all these different icons here on these different accounts, these are different types of accounts that TechIDManager can make and maintain. The one we just used there was an 𝗕𝗏𝐼D account that was unique to me as an individual, has my name on it, rights are set specifically to me. That is a just-in-time account. That account is going to be disabled automatically in some time frame. You can set that time frame per globally or per account that the person has, agent that makes these accounts. So that account sometime in the future is going to be automatically disabled, all the rights removed from it, a password set that's never told to anybody, but it's still going to be there for logging purposes. And the next time that I as an individual need to use that account, that same account is re-enabled, rights reprovisioned to a password set, encrypted, and sent back so that just I can see it. In this way, you cover all the cybersecurity framework requirements for any cybersecurity framework because you have unique accounts for each person. You have monitoring, logging, you have rights setting, you have just-in-time access, which is the fancy new shiniest thing that people like for cybersecurity frameworks. You have monitored access, you have all of that. You have logging, you have just-in-time, you have MFA, you have all of that on those accounts. We can do a variety of types of accounts, including, let's next look at an on-prem style account. What I have here is I have Screen Connect connected to a DC, a domain controller. Specifically, I believe this is on the Jeep domain, but let's check and confirm. There's so many clicks to log into 2019 just to get to the login screen. There we are. I see this is the Jeep domain that I want to get logged into. I need a username and password as a technician to get logged in. As a technician, I bring up the TechID client. Somewhere in here, there could be 10 accounts, there could be 10,000 accounts, some number of accounts. I'm just going to search. When I click search windows here, this TechID client went out on my computer, looked at all the windows I had open, said these windows are probably remote connection tools. You are probably trying to connect to these places, and these are probably the accounts that you use that you want right now. It says of all the accounts I have access to, this is the one password that would and username that will probably help you. It is _black.mit-admin. It is a domain account that is unique to me. I could copy the username and password like I did before. Much easier, I'm just going to tell it to inject both of those credentials. Tell where to inject those credentials, and the TechID client is going to inject my username and my password and get me logged on to this machine efficiently and effectively with 3 clicks. It took me longer to get to the login screen than it did to get logged in with TechIDManager accounts. So as a technician, I'm now logged in. I can do whatever it is, whatever rights I am granted. Same thing here. As with 𝗕𝗏𝐼D, we can set any of the 200 plus rights and group memberships. On a domain controller, we can set any of the AD group memberships, any of the rights, custom ones, anything. We can maintain those rights inside the domain, the AD, for the TechIDManager users. We rotate passwords every 24 hours. We can do just-in-time enabling, disabling. There's really a lot of options. So if we look down through here, this Jeep account is the one I just used. It is a domain account unique to me. We can do a lot of different types of accounts, and we can layer them. Like if you remember, this 𝗕𝗏𝐼D account was a just-in-time account. This Jeep account is what we call a managed account. It's always there. I can always use it. I can use it online. I can use it offline. I can use it whenever. We can also do domain accounts that are just in time, so that if I needed to use this 𝗂𝗏𝗏.net account, I would click enable sometime in the next 60 seconds. Just like with the 𝗕𝗏𝐼D account, this account would be, but on-prem, on the DC, would be enabled, rights provision to that account, password set, encrypted and sent back so that just I can see it. We can also do a variety of other things. There's so many options here. We can do shared account management. So if you have one MSP admin account that you want to use, either on a domain, 𝗕𝗏𝐼D, individual Windows computer, or even a Mac, we can do that. We can take over that account, rotate the password on it, share it with just the technicians that you want to see it. So if you have an admin account that's used for local access, an admin account that's used for SQL access, you can separate those out, give those to different technicians who should have access. We can do that for Macs also. We can also do unique accounts that are just in time on Macs. We can do the same thing for individual Windows computers. You can see here this desktop machine. I have a unique individual account. There are shared accounts available on that Windows machine. There are a plethora of options. However, you decide to do your privileged account management to grant technicians access to client infrastructure, shared, unique, just-in-time, managed, online, offline, MFA, non-MFA, whatever way it is, TechIDManager can maintain, and protect those accounts. It's important. One of the benefits of all this automation that TechIDManager provides is the accounts are automatically made by TechIDManager. You do not have to go make all these accounts and then wire them all up. You just tell TechIDManager, this group of technicians has access to this group of clients, and they should have this group of rights. And then we wire everything else up, make all those accounts. It's very straightforward, very simple. That is the bread and butter, the core of what TechIDManager does. There's a bunch of organization over here where you can organize all of the accounts into your clients. There's a bunch of searching. There's a bunch of password management and history. Like if you want to see the history of all, I want to see the history of my Jeep account. This is the history of all my passwords forever on the Jeep domain. So if I bring up a backup from, say, 5 days ago, I know how to get logged in without having to connect that machine to the internet to do that. Without any of the complication that comes with bringing up a backup and connect to the internet. Don't have to do that. You can get logged in offline with this. Because we're dealing with so many credentials, usernames, and passwords, there's both a personal password vault and a shareable password vault built into the product, so you can have one place to go to get all your credentials as a technician, MSP technician. This is available on Windows, on Mac, on iPhone, on Android, both on your smartphones and on your laptops, desktops. Very powerful. That is the general gist of the TechID client and the technician's experience. There's a bunch of other things you can filter and do. That's the general of it. We also have some examples here of a bunch of different ways that you can deploy TechIDManager. Some of the overview of different things it can do. In this particular example, TechIDManager is being used to, I'm covering that up. How dare I cover that up? Let me just slide my chair over to the side here so you can see this better. This is the deployment of TechIDManager that has some number of technicians, 4 technicians in this example, a domain controller, 2 laptops. And the policies and procedures that this MSP has decided is for domain and local wired computers on that machine, on that network. They're going to use domain-based accounts that are unique to each technician. There are 2 laptops that travel around in the field that aren't always connected to the domain. So the MSP has decided on those particular laptops, they're going to use shared administrator accounts and give access to the technicians to those accounts. So in the TechID client for each technician, you can see here, that this blue technician gets access to his blue account and the shared gray and black accounts. The orange one only sees his orange account. The green one only sees his green account. And the yellow one only sees his yellow account and the 2 shared accounts. This could be further limited so that only a subset of technicians could see the shared accounts. There are lots and lots of options. This would be 1 deployment of the PM agent, the unique account setup agent, and 2 deployments of the shared account setup. Real quick, real easy to deploy. Let's look at a much more complicated example. Let's look at this one. In this example, this MSP has an on-prem infrastructure. Entra ID Connect for this client has on-prem infrastructure with several domain controllers in a forest. There is an Entra ID tenant that could be hybrid linked or could not be. Doesn't matter. We work with both of those, as well as a bunch of on-prem computers that are wired and some laptops that move around. In this particular instance, they've chosen to have some engineers have on-prem domain controller accounts. Some set of engineers have Entra ID native accounts. They're unrelated, so you can have some engineers that only access Entra ID, some that are only granted access to the domain because they have different skill sets. You might want to separate those functionalities. You can do that. Then on this laptop, there's one shared administrator account that most people get access to. And on this machine, this laptop that moves around, there's a shared account that most people get access to, but two particular individuals get unique accounts just on this machine because they have whatever need to access that machine more often or more uniquely. We can support that. So in this deployment, there are 3 unique instances, one Entra ID, one on-prem domain controller, and one on this special laptop that has some users. And you can see that just the blue and yellow users are granted access here. Those accounts only show up in their particular TechID clients on the tech computers. And then the laptop has a shared account deployed, as does this laptop with the unique users. It also has a shared account that most people can see. There are lots of options on the way that you deploy TechIDManager and all the things that we can put together and make work. You can overlap and mix and match all these deployment examples in any way that really helps meet your policies and procedures for security compliance when it comes to technician access and privileged access management. That's what privileged account management. We are really good at that, and we can help you figure out both what those policies and procedures should be, how you can implement them, easiest way to implement them, and quickest way to transition from the insecure single shared account to using TechIDManager with unique accounts for all of the individual technicians or some shared account access. Whatever, we can help you figure out and interpret the cybersecurity policies when it comes to privileged account management. Check out TechIDManager.com. Check out TechIDManager.com and book a demo up here in the right corner so we can talk directly to you. Talk about the privileged account management that MSPs need when it comes to accessing their clients. We can even do an evaluation to help you figure out what steps you need to go through to become compliant or to just become safe, because we all want to, as MSPs, raise the tide and be more secure and safe for our clients. All right. That has been our demo for December 4th, 2025. Love to talk to you in more detail. Have a great day.